This map shows the reach of the Islamic Empire by the late 7th century. The borders had expanded massively in the decades following Prophet Muhammad's passing, but beneath that territorial growth, political fractures were pulling the community apart. Hussain ibn Ali was known across the region for a life defined by piety and a refusal to compromise on justice. Within the community, his reputation for integrity was so high that his endorsement carried more weight than any military decree. The breaking point arrives when the ruler, Amir Muawiyah, dies, and his son, Yazid, takes the throne. Yazid moves immediately to consolidate power. He demands bayat, a formal pledge of allegiance from all influential figures, to ensure his rule remains uncontested. Hussein faces a grim calculation. Endorsing Yazid means validating a corrupt system, but refusing puts an immediate target on his back. To prevent violence from spilling into the streets of his home, Hussein makes his choice. Looking at the green dome of the Prophet's mosque in Medina, he leaves the city under the cover of darkness. He seeks sanctuary here in Makkah, shown in this early photograph. People quickly gather around him to hear his message, proving his massive public influence and signaling an escalating standoff with the government. Refusing to yield to the new administration carries an immediate cost. To protect his principles, a man who was the center of his community is forced to become a fugitive in his own land. A potential lifeline appears. Hussein receives thousands of letters from the city of Kufa, promising loyalty and military support. To verify these claims, he sends his cousin Muslim ibn Aqil to assess the situation. But the government responds with heavy intimidation. Faced with threats and extreme pressure, the citizens of Kufa back down. They abandon Muslim ibn Aqil, leaving him isolated to be killed by the authorities. Hussein receives this news while already en route. He understands that he is marching into a trap. Yet, turning his caravan around would mean submitting to the very demands he set out to protest. He continues forward. On the 2nd of Muharram, his small caravan arrives at a place called Karbala. It is a harsh, inescapable stretch of desert. Within days, an overwhelming military force completely surrounds Hussein's family and his few remaining companions. The military strategy is psychological as much as physical. They cut off all access to the nearby Furat River. As you can see in this historical photo of the riverbank, water had to be drawn by hand. Denying access to it plunged Hussein's camp into agonizing thirst, especially the young children. Unable to watch the children suffer, Hussein's brother, Hazrat Abbas, mounts a charge toward the river. He successfully breaks through enemy lines and fills a water skin, but on his return to the camp, he is ambushed and killed. Tyranny relies on physical deprivation and terror to break resistance. Karbala tests whether moral conviction can hold up when the body is subjected to the extremes of starvation and thirst. On the night of the 9th of Muharram, the eve of battle, Hussein gathers his remaining family and companions in the darkness of the camp. He makes a startling offer. He tells them the army outside only wants his life. He extinguishes the lamps and gives everyone permission to slip away into the desert and save themselves. When the lamps are relit, not a single person has left. Knowing exactly what awaits them at dawn, they consciously choose to stay and face death by his side. Morning breaks, the 10th of Muharram, known as Ashura. The clash begins in the blinding dust of the desert, pitting a few dozen defenders against thousands of heavily armed soldiers. What follows is a methodical exhaustion of the camp. One by one, the companions step onto the battlefield. Even the youth of Hussein's family, including his son Ali Akbar and his nephew Qasim, fight until they fall. Finally, Hussein stands alone. Exhausted, heavily wounded, and parched from days of thirst, he makes his final stand and is struck down. Ashura redefines the idea of victory. Hussein did not outsurvive his enemy on the battlefield. Instead, he walked into certain death so his principles would survive the empire that killed him. When the dust settles, the ruling army captures the surviving women and children, dragging them away in chains. The empire believes they have successfully crushed the rebellion and buried its leadership in the sand. But they miscalculated the resolve of the survivors. Hussein's sister, Hazrat Zainab, refuses to remain quiet. In the very courts of her captors, she speaks openly and defiantly, detailing the massacre on the battlefield. Her speeches strip away the state's propaganda. By forcing the public to hear the truth of the events, she turns the empire's military conquest into a permanent moral defeat. This high-angle view of a modern procession shows how far that message traveled. Millions globally gather to commemorate Hussein's choice. Looking closely at these crowds, you see a living practice of the lessons taught at Karbala, standing firm for truth against systemic injustice. These are the shrines of Imam Hussain and Hazrat Abbas, illuminated against the night sky in Karbala today. The physical bodies perished over 1,000 years ago, but their legacy built a permanent monument in the hearts of humanity. Hussein's refusal to yield transformed Karbala into an eternal precedent. That truth, defended at the ultimate cost, outlives the empire that tried to silence it.